A fearless truth about my older woman. People think they know what it means to be with an older woman, but most of them only see the surface. They imagine confidence, wisdom, maybe even a little mystery. But there's something more, something fearless. My older woman isn't afraid of truth. She speaks it, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not what you want to hear. If she senses something wrong, she doesn't pretend it's fine. She'll look you in the eye and tell you exactly what's on her mind. This fearless honesty can feel intense at times, but it's also one of the things that makes her incredible. It's not about being harsh. It's about refusing to hide behind lies, refusing to play the games most people are used to. She's been through too much to waste time pretending. She's had moments in life where truth was the only thing that could set her free. And because of that, she values it above all else. With her, I never have to guess how she feels. If she's happy, I know it. If she's upset, I know that too. And if she loves me, there's no doubt, because she shows it with both words and actions. But the fearless truth isn't just about what she says. It's in how she lives. She doesn't follow trends just to fit in. She doesn't do things just to please others. Every choice she makes is hers, and that kind of self-assurance is magnetic. What people don't understand is that her fearlessness isn't about never being afraid. It's about feeling fear and doing it anyway. That's the kind of truth that changes you when you see it up close. The first time I saw her fearless truth in action, we were sitting in a small cafe. It was quiet, except for the soft sound of people talking and cups clinking. Then a stranger at the next table said something disrespectful to the waitress. Most people would have looked away, pretending they didn't hear it. But not her. She turned her head, looked directly at him, and in a calm but firm voice said, "That's no way to speak to someone who's doing their job." The man tried to brush it off with a laugh, but she didn't waver. She wasn't rude, she wasn't loud, she was just clear. Her words had weight because they came from a place of truth. The whole room seemed to pause for a second, and even the waitress looked surprised. But then she smiled. That quiet, thankful smile that says, "Someone stood up for me." Afterwards I asked her, "Weren't you afraid of making a scene?" She just shrugged and said, "If speaking the truth makes a scene, maybe the world needs more scenes." That moment stuck with me. It wasn't about winning an argument, and it wasn't about showing off. It was about courage, the kind that refuses to let wrong things slide, even when it's easier to stay silent. And that's when I understood something. Her fearlessness isn't just part of who she is. It's a choice she makes every single day. Her fearlessness doesn't stop at speaking her mind in public. It runs deep in the way she loves. When she cares about someone, she doesn't play guessing games or hide her feelings behind small talk. She tells you directly, "I love you," and means every word without hesitation. She doesn't fear rejection the way most people do, because she's learned that loving openly is not a weakness, it's a strength. She would rather risk her heart than live with what if. And when she commits, it's with both feet planted firmly in the ground. She doesn't back away when life gets messy. She doesn't disappear when things get hard. If she says she's by your side, she's there. Through arguments, through silence, through storms. She's fearless in honesty too. If she sees something wrong between you, she'll bring it up, not to start a fight, but to protect the connection. She's not afraid of uncomfortable conversations, because she knows they can lead to deeper understanding. And here's the part that surprises most people. Her fearlessness makes her softer, not harder. She can hold you when you're at your weakest and not flinch at your broken pieces. She doesn't fear vulnerability because she's faced her own many times before. That's the fearless truth about her love. It's steady, it's bold, and it never hides in the shadows. Her fearlessness was tested the day life threw us into uncertainty. It wasn't something small, not a simple argument or a misunderstanding. It was a change that could shake the foundation we had built. Most people in that moment would panic, shut down, or even run away. But she stood in the middle of the storm, her eyes steady, her voice calm. She said, "We'll figure it out," as if there was no other option. But to move forward together, I could see the weight she carried. She was tired, yes, but she didn't let fear control her steps. She faced every obstacle head on, calling, planning, solving, not for herself alone, but for us. She reminded me of something powerful. Fearlessness isn't about never feeling afraid. It's about feeling the fear and refusing to let it stop you. She also didn't pretend everything was fine. At night she would sit quietly, and I knew the thoughts running through her mind weren't easy. But when she looked at me, I didn't see doubt. I saw determination. That's when I realized her courage wasn't just for show. It was a choice she made every day, even in moments when giving up might have been easier. And in standing strong, she gave me the strength to stand too. Her way of facing life started to change me, without me even realizing it. Before her, I thought bravery was about big actions, grand speeches, sudden decisions, risky moves. But she showed me bravery was in the small things too. Waking up when you want to stay in bed, speaking the truth when silence feels safer, choosing love even when the past has made you cautious. I noticed I started reacting differently to problems. When something went wrong, instead of panicking or overthinking, I found myself asking, "What's our next step?" That was her influence. Her steadiness had slowly built a steadiness in me. I also began to understand that her fearlessness didn't come from a perfect life. It came from surviving an imperfect one. She'd been hurt, she'd been disappointed, and she'd seen days darker than I could imagine. Yet she still laughed, still dreamed, still looked at the future like it was worth reaching for. One night, while we were sitting quietly, I told her, "You don't just face storms. You teach me how to walk through them." She smiled in that knowing way of hers, and simply said, "That's what love is. We carry each other through." And at that moment, I realized the fearless truth about her wasn't just her courage. It was how she gave it away freely, so that the people she loved could be brave too. Her courage was something I had admired for so long, but I never imagined I'd see. It tested right in front of me. It started with news we didn't expect. A decision was made by people far away, one that could change everything. We'd been building together. It meant leaving comfort behind, facing judgment from those who didn't understand us, and stepping into a future with no clear path. I saw the worry flicker in her eyes for a split second, but then it was gone. She stood straighter, took a deep breath, and said, "All right, we'll handle it." That was it. No panic, no complaining, no running away. Instead, she started making a plan. She called people, asked the right questions, and refused to be pushed into fear. I asked her later, "Weren't you scared at all?" She laughed softly and said, "Of course I was, but fear doesn't get the final say." That's when I finally understood. Her fearlessness wasn't the absence of fear. It was the choice to keep moving anyway. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just her fight. It was ours. And whatever came next, we'd face it together, just like she had always taught me. The challenge didn't wait for us to catch our breath. It arrived quickly. A letter with deadlines, warnings, and a list of demands that seemed impossible. I remember holding it in my hands, feeling the weight of every word pressing down on me. I looked at her, hoping she'd have the answer right away. Instead, she poured us both a cup of tea, sat down across from me, and said, "First we breathe, then we decide." It sounded simple, but I realized it was her way of taking control. Fear rushes you into mistakes. She wanted us to move with clarity, not panic. That night, we stayed up for hours. She laid out every possible path, what we'd lose, what we could gain, and what risks we had to be willing to take. At one point, she looked at me with that calm strength and asked, "If this takes us far from everything we know, are you ready to go with me?" I didn't even have to think about it. "Yes," I said. Not because I wasn't scared, but because she had taught me that sometimes you choose the unknown when the person beside you is worth it. By morning, our decision was made. It would mean stepping into unfamiliar territory, possibly leaving behind the life we'd built, but it was the only way forward. She reached for my hand and smiled. "We don't run from storms," she whispered. "We walk through them," and in that moment, I knew, whatever the outcome, we were already stronger than the challenge itself. The first step into that new chapter didn't feel like stepping forward. It felt like jumping off a cliff. Everything familiar was behind us, and ahead was only a road we had to carve ourselves. We packed lightly, taking only what we needed. Not just clothes and documents, but little things that carried memories. A photo of the two of us on a rainy day. A small wooden box she'd kept since her childhood, and the scarf she wore the night we met. The journey was long. There were moments when I could feel uncertainty creeping in, especially when strangers looked at us as if we didn't belong. But she would glance at me with that unshakable calm, and the doubt in my chest would fade. At one border checkpoint, we were questioned more than anyone else. The officer flipped through our papers slowly, asking why we were here, what our purpose was. "Equal sign." Her voice didn't waver once when she answered. She spoke with such quiet authority that even the officer paused before finally letting us through. That night, in a small rented room, I asked her how she stayed so composed. She smiled faintly and said, "When life tries to make you small, stand taller inside your mind."